It technically costs $47 per unit. So if a class is 3 units, 47 times 3. But for students graduating within LBUSD, Mayfair, St. Joseph, and St. Anthony, if you graduate from any of those high schools and you come directly to LBCC, you actually get 2 years of free tuition, guaranteed.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Proud to Be LBUSD podcast. I'm your host, Stefano, and joining us today, we have Tristan, who's here to talk about LBCC. So thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Aside from the rain, we're staying a little dry. I got my big coat, but I'm doing fantastic. Just want to take a moment to say thank you so much. Love the work I do, and I'm really happy that I get a little bit of a platform here so I can, help y'all out.
Of course, of course. So LBCC, can you please tell me about your position with Long Beach Community College?
Yeah, so I work as an outreach and recruitment specialist, specifically at the matriculation office. So basically, anybody that's thinking about coming to LBCC, has questions about LBCC, what we have to offer, all the programs we have, they basically come through my department. And so within my job specifically, I'm actually placed at a lot of the local high schools. So currently I service Mayfair, Sado. I also service Avalon out on Catalina Island, which is kind of fun. I service biggest school is going to be Wilson. I also service all of Paramount Unified. And so I'm really there either on a weekly basis or on every other weekly basis or every other week basis, just to help y'all out, answer your questions, making sure that you have a face to the school that you might be coming to.
And how long have you been doing this type of work, doing outreach events?
Yeah, so I've been doing outreach for about, I want to say, I think it's like 2.5 years, about so, but I've been in within higher education for coming on maybe 3.5 years now. So yeah.
Okay, so you seem very educated on obviously LBCC. Can you please tell me about like the mission of what does LBCC hope to achieve?
Yeah, so I guess there's like the clear cut or like the one that LBCC has, right? We have an official mission statement. But really I think if I had to break it down to like a TLDR version, really, LBCC here is to offer opportunity. We're here to create equitable outcomes for students and give opportunity to students that maybe didn't get into the school they wanted to straight up. We also offer workforce development. So maybe you think about going straight into the workforce. And something I always would like to highlight too is that it's not always the students just coming straight out of high school. Some students opt to take a year, 2 years off. Some people come back to college maybe 10 years later, and we're still open doors, open arms to help them succeed whatever they're trying to get to. And so, really, our goal is to just improve everybody's opportunities, I guess I could say, and giving them the chance to make a better life for themselves, really. Yeah.
So it's kind of like LBCC is always going to be there for you in a way.
Yeah, I mean, so my previous position, I worked at USC, funny enough, as a college advisor, just like Mr. Kai from a previous podcast. And though I do really enjoy working for an institution, like a 4-year institution, my heart's always been at the community college level. And the main reason is because I don't ever have to say, no, you can't come here to study. And I think that's super important when it comes to education because education's for everybody. And it looks different because it might be a trade program, right? It might be construction technology, it might be culinary. For others, it might be business, it might be your traditional accounting or anything like that. But I love our community colleges because we don't have to say no. You can come here. It's more likely going to be very affordable and or financial aid's going to cover a lot of it. And you can really get educated and move on to your next stage in life.
That's amazing. And like, like what is the benefits of attending a community college rather than like a traditional 4-year university path?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I get that question a lot when in outreach, right? Like, why should I come to LBCC? Why go to a community college? And I like to highlight, I think the two main things that always come to mind are the first one is you want to do a trade program. So again, things I mentioned before, right? Culinary, some of like phlebotomy, nursing also is technically a trade to get your registered nursing license. It's only an associate's degree. And those types of jobs, students think, oh, that's a trade school, right? I have to go to trade school for that and
Mhm.
potentially are very expensive. Community colleges, one arm of the community college, right, is really those trade programs and they're very affordable. Automotive, all those jobs only usually require an associate's degree to get paid very well. And you only got to do 2 years of schooling, maybe even less if you're just going for a certification, right? Which is just a little bit less classes and you're really focused in on your trade. And those classes are very hands on. A lot of students think that, oh, like I'm gonna go to LBCC and do automotive, but I don't want to sit in a classroom. You may be spending like 30 minutes in the classroom just going over what you're doing that day.
Mhm.
And then the rest of the time you're actually in our garage working on those cars. Right. And so I think that students are slowly realizing that and seeing the benefits of having these hands-on skills, and it's so fun to watch. But the second reason is the students that want to take advantage of the transfer pathway. It's very confusing. I'm sure you've heard about the transfer
Yes.
pathway and there's a lot of scary things about it, but I think it's such a great opportunity for students that maybe don't know what they want to do yet or what they want to major in yet, or they want to save money, or maybe you're coming out of high school and your GPA wasn't doing too hot. When you come to a community college and you transfer, you get that full GPA reset. So those 4 years in institutions don't really care about what you did in high school anymore.
Yeah, you're kind of getting like a second chance
You
in
get that second
LBCC.
chance. Yeah, that's another thing I love about community colleges. We do offer you that second chance, right? Because I think that everybody deserves a second chance, right? Because, you can't be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And that second chance is so eye-opening. I was a transfer student myself, and so I really feel like my community college experience gave me that time to really dig into what I wanted to do, and at low stakes because you're not spending a ton of money, right? And I always like to tell students, I got 50% off my college degree because I didn't pay for
Yeah.
any of my time at a community college, right?
Mhm.
And my diploma says Tristan Nguyen graduated from UC Santa Barbara with a degree in psychology and a minor in education. There's no little star. There's no little like parentheses that says, oh, but he was a transfer student or XYZ. My diploma looks exactly the same as if someone that spent 4 years there.
Yeah, so, like, you saved money, you get, like, different experiences. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
about, like, the different experiences that you may I mean, you talked about trade,
Mm-hmm.
programs, but what does
Yeah.
that look like?
Yeah, so specifically the trade programs, what
Yeah.
those look like? Yeah, so again, so you can pick your trades, right? The differences between maybe Long Beach City and some of the other community colleges in the local area, most of us have the same trade programs, maybe I would say like 85% the
Mm,
same, and some of us have specialties. So, for instance, Long Beach City College, I think we're the only local community college to the area that has construction technology. So, if you wanted to learn how to frame houses, right, and you wanted to do tile work and contracting work, all that kind of fun stuff,
mhm.
LBCC would be your choice because we have that. It's really cool. It's outside. You're literally framing houses. Like you're not talking about it. You're not doing it on a computer. You're there with your hands and the tools doing this work. So by the time you're done and you go apply for those jobs, you have those hands-on skills already, right? And then, for instance, another one, I think a differentiator would be, I believe, Cerritos, for example, they have a dental hygienist program that we don't have. Cyprus has an aviation program. If you're interested in aviation and you want to fly planes, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I love talking about trades, but yeah, there's so much opportunity there for students to take advantage of. And I always highly recommend just take one for fun. You never know what you're gonna learn.
Yeah, and I know previously you talked about associate's degrees. What does that look like in terms of, like, obtaining it?
Good question. Yeah, so I guess the nitty-gritty of it is that you need 60 units of transferable credit to get an associate's degree. What is 60 units? What does that mean? So each class you take in college is worth a certain amount of units. I would say on average, classes are worth anywhere between 3 to 5. Sometimes you have a 1.5 unit class, sometimes you have a 1 unit class. And so as quickly as you can finish those 60 units, that would get you your associate's degree, and that associate's degree could be either to transfer. We have specific ones to transfer to four-year institutions. We have specific ones for our trade programs. And basically, it's a mixture of what we consider is what's called general education requirements.
Okay.
So, like, think about like your Englishes, your sociologies, your psychologies. You probably have to take one of those mixed in with your major courses, which might be your trade program. So you might have culinary at night, and then you have English in the morning, or vice versa. You're a business major, so maybe two of your classes are business related, and the other two are going to be your general education requirements.
And how long is it expected to obtain an associate's degree? Like, how long does it take, like, the time frame?
Yeah, I would say so. The tradition, I guess the word is traditional, is it usually takes about 2 years
Okay.
to get 60 units. And that's if you're taking 15 units per semester and you're not taking winter or summer, right? So if you just do, because in 2 years, that's 4 semesters. We also have what's called intersession, which is winter and summer, but we usually don't count those when we're talking about the main ones.
Mhm.
And so students could finish quicker, right? If you decide to take a bunch of winter courses, or if you maybe did dual enrollment while you're in high school, that's usually a big defining, especially in LBUSD. I feel like a lot of students take dual enrollment classes to kind of get that jump start, which is
Definitely.
really cool. Um, but yeah, if you take summer and winter classes and you're taking 15 units per semester, and that's like the average, right? Minimum is 12 to be full time, which gets you the max amount of financial aid. And
Okay.
that's so important for whether you go to LBCC or a 4 year college. 12 units gets you the max amount of money. And then maximum, I think we cap our students out at, I want to say 18 units, but potentially you can petition for more. I've never seen it. 18 units is a lot.
Yeah.
That's yeah, most college students aren't going to class Monday through Friday anymore, right? Like I'm sure you're used to at Wilson.
Yeah.
Um, and so most students are only going Monday through Thursday, so 15 units is usually about the mark that you want to hover at.
Okay. And like, what is the cost to take these units? Because I know that's a lot. So what is like the.
Yeah, so the general breakdown, right? So it technically costs $47 per unit. So if a class is 3 units, 47 times 3. But for students graduating within LBUSD, Mayfair, St. Joseph, and St. Anthony, if you graduate from any of those high schools and you come directly to LBCC, you actually get 2 years of free tuition, guaranteed.
Mm.
And a lot of students get confused. This is regardless of household income. So it doesn't matter if maybe like a 4 year university didn't offer you any financial aid,
Mm-hmm.
we will still give you that 2 years of free tuition regardless. And that's really beneficial for students because again, right, you're getting 50% off your your college degree.
Yes.
But yeah, so we're covering your tuition costs. And then the only other cost you usually accrue is maybe like your student fees, which is usually shakes out to I want to say about 40-ish dollars per semester, and then whatever your textbooks costs are. But I always tell students you shouldn't be buying textbooks.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the
Mhm.
prices.
Definitely.
Do not buy your textbooks. Rent, borrow. Do anything you can to not buy those textbooks because I still have textbooks that are I'm using as a monitor stand.
Oh,
And always joke to people that that's like a $300 monitor stand right there.
yeah.
Between those 2 textbooks that are sitting right there.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice to rent your textbooks because they can get pricey. And I know you talked about like the free 2 years
Mhm.
at or not the free 2 years, but was it the free 2 years?
Yeah, free 2 years. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So is that part of like the Long Beach Promise?
Yeah, so that's part of the Long Beach College Promise, and that's for again, for all the schools that I listed before, right? So they are guaranteed. The only, like, little, like, stars or caveats that you have is that you have to come straight from high school to LBCC. So right after your senior year, you're enrolling in the fall. That's one of the requirements. There's a whole list of requirements. They're not as crazy as it sound I made it sound kinda crazy, but really it's just you have to come straight after. You have to be a full-time college student,
Okay.
which is just 12 units, right, which is what I
Yeah.
mentioned before. You have to finish your financial aid, and then there's some small other steps that are already a part of becoming a student at LBCC that are part of the requirements, like finishing the participation agreement and stuff like that. But main thing I would always like to highlight is you gotta be full-time, you gotta come straight out of high school, and you gotta enroll in the fall, and you'll get those 2 years of free tuitions, no questions asked.
So no gap years for anybody. You just go straight to LBCC.
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of students kind of take a gap year. So good news is that if you do take a gap year, you qualify for what's called our Viking Advantage, and that's 1 year of free tuition guaranteed. And that's what we offer to all the other high schools outside of the schools that I named. So again, I service, for instance, Paramount Unified as well, and they only get 1 year free tuition.
Okay.
Uh huh.
So, what would you say to like the students who are kind of doubting going to LBC or like a community college and want to just do like the 4 year traditional route or not
Yeah.
traditional route, but
Yeah.
more common?
Yeah. The more common, oh man, that's a tough question. I feel like I'm gonna put my old advisor hat on right now. Um, I feel it's so case by case basis because there's so many factors that go into where you choose to go to college.
Definitely.
Um, One of the examples I always told students was, like maybe for we'll use film. Maybe you're a big film student and like that's what you want to major in, and you don't care where you go as long as you're going to the best film school, right? If I told you that CSU Bakersfield had the best film school, do you think you would go to CSU Bakersfield?
Probably not. I mean, you'd have to convince me to go, but
Exactly, right? And that just highlights that there's so much, and no hate on CSU Bakersfield, I'm sorry, but it's just far away. It's very different from Long Beach. Um, but there's so much that goes into it, right? Like the financial aid has to work out for you. The campus culture has to work out for you? Did you visit the campus? Did you see students walking around? Did people seem kind of like sad, tired? Were people excited to be on campus? Like I'm sure if you walk around UCLA, the buzz is a little bit higher, right? Um, all of those factors come into play, and you just kind of have to. My job as an outreach and recruitment specialist and as just a person that works in higher education in general as a professional is to get you thinking about all of those things, right? Because you want to take all those into account. For instance, like, do you want to move far away or would you prefer to stay close? Some students I talk to like, get me as far away from Long Beach as I can. Other students are like, "Oh, no, like, I can't even go," like, I wouldn't even go to Cal State Fullerton, which is only, like, 15, 20 minutes away, right? It's
Yeah.
like Cal State Long Beach or nothing or LBCC transfer.
Mhm.
But to circle back to the main point of why a 2-year versus a 4-year, I think the main thing is that you know yourself best, and if the money works out and you wanted to transfer to a 4-year institution, you can go there straight up, and I think you'll figure yourself out, you'll learn. Um, but for those of you that maybe are shooting for those really competitive schools, don't overlook the community college route and transferring because again, my degree looks exactly the same as if anybody spent 4 years at UC Santa Barbara, right? But, I got all the experiences I wanted, and I got that second chance because out of high school, I didn't have the GPA to go to UC Santa Barbara,
Mhm.
but when I transferred, I did,
Mhm.
and, I think I turned out okay.
Yeah, and I think also students who transfer to a UC school or just like any school or any 4-year school from LBCC or community college, I think they have like higher chances, right?
Yeah, especially for some of the more competitive schools, as a transfer student, you always have a higher rate of admittance. I if I recall correctly, I think the UCs, it's the 2-to-1 ratio. For every 2 transfer students, you admit 1 freshman, and that's kind of like their admissions process. Pretty sure the last time I went to a conference, that was what was told to us. But yeah, you get such a high boost, and especially for, like I said, a lot of students wanna go to UCLA,
Mhm.
and it's amazing that we have such a great institution in our local backyard, but that also means that there's a lot of people that wanna go to UCLA.
Competitive.
Very competitive, and I don't think that, you not getting in doesn't necessarily mean you're not worthy, right? Or you didn't do enough in high school.
Mhm.
Like, you could be class president, you could be doing X, Y, and Z and still not get in.
Yeah.
That doesn't define who you are or your work ethic or anything like that. It's just
Mhm.
very competitive.
Yeah. And I know previously you mentioned like campus life or just like the environment. What
Yeah.
does like the LBCC campus look like?
Yeah, I would say for a community college, we're a pretty active campus, which is part of the reason why I love, working at LBCC is because I get to, when I'm on campus, when I'm not on my high school sites,
Mhm.
I get to walk around. I get to catch up with students that maybe I recruited since high school, right? I've seen them for the last 2 years walking around campus. I've seen them become club presidents. I've seen them, help and really get ingrained into the LBCC community. And I think that's what LBCC really has going for it. And if that's something that you're interested in, um, this is such a good place to do it. Compared to, I'm not gonna name no names, but there's other community colleges that are very different. And I think that LBCC, you can come and you can find the spot where you find your peoples, find your tribe, and that's really important because that's what gets you through the whole college experience for sure.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned like a lot of different things that LBCC offers, but is there any like specific programs and opportunities that you think make LBCC special?
Man, that's a tough question. I thought about this. I'm trying to think. I don't think it's necessarily like a specific program, right? I think that it's the people that work at LBCC and the culmination of how everybody's really on the same page of creating really just adhering to the mission statement, right? We're here to create equitable outcomes and give people opportunity. And there's some great people at LBCC working in some great programs that really their whole goal is to make sure that you have everything you need to succeed. The only thing that makes it difficult sometimes, and this is kind of like a little word of advice for everybody that goes to college, um, colleges have so many great programs that could support you in many ways of anything that you're struggling with. A
Mhm.
college probably has a program for you, but there's no way for them to know that you need that help unless you self-advocate.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've seen a lot of students struggle with sometimes. And so my best advice is, hey, like if you're struggling with something, tell somebody because I promise you, there's something on campus that can probably help you out.
Mhm.
You just have to like reach out to them or let them know that you're struggling with something, and they will connect you with all the resources that they have that are free, low cost, whatever it might be.
Amazing. And is there anything else you would like to share about LBCC,
I guess to wrap it all up, I hope to see you there. If not, it's okay. I really my goal, something that students always ask me about is like sell me on coming to LBCC, right? Like
Sell me, yeah.
sell me, because you're an outreach recruitment specialist, right? Like
Mhm.
you're supposed to sell me on coming here. Something I always tell the students, like that's not necessarily my job. My job is actually really to provide you with the information, the opportunity, so that you make your decision to go to college, whether it be a 2 year or a 4 year, right? Not from a place of ignorance. You knew everything that was on the table. You knew how much money it would cost. You understood what your options were in coming to a community college, what doors would be open for you versus a 4 year or whichever one worked better for you. So I always tell students like I'm really here just to make sure that if you didn't know this was an option, this is what this option looks like. And let me help you, let me talk to you, let me walk you through it. If you decide to come here, I'm so happy because I can get to continue walking with you through your high school, your college journey.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Honestly, after just having this conversation with you, like, I mean, I haven't applied to community college yet. I know I should be doing that,
Yeah.
but like, you kind of like convinced me to apply because, like LBCC will always be there for me and it's cheaper and like you get all these opportunities like trade.
Yeah, yeah, you really do. And like I said, it's such a great stepping stone for you to just take advantage of. And you never know what doors are gonna open. You never know who you're gonna meet. And I'm telling you, that transfer people are scared about transferring, but it's such a great opportunity for a lot of students too, especially if you wanted to move far away. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, on that note, I think that's everything we have for you all today. My name is Stefano Jacobo. I'm your host, and this is Tristan Nguyen. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.